Hi guys, this is Andrew Dossman presenting my mass media project on the topic of the media censorship of Congressman Ron Paul during and after his presidential campaigning in 2008. To understand why this topic is so significant, I feel that it is important to get a brief breakdown of who Ron Paul is and what he represents. Ron Paul is a congressman from Texas. He has never voted to raise taxes. He has never voted for an unbalanced budget. He has never voted for a federal restriction on gun ownership. He has never voted to raise congressional pay. He has never voted to increase the power of the executive branch. He voted against the Patriot Act. He voted against regulating the internet. He voted against the war in Iraq. He wants to end the Federal Reserve and bring back the gold standard. He wants to bring back the 570,000 troops stationed in over 130 countries. He wants to decrease the size of the federal government. He wants to abolish the income tax and the IRS and replace it with nothing. With views so different from those of the establishment, you would think that Ron Paul would be a media sensation. However, that is not the case. Ron Paul's popularity with supporters on the internet came to a peak in late 2007, when on November 5, 2007, his campaign raised over $4.3 million in a single day, which set the record for most money raised by a Republican candidate in one day and the largest amount from an online fundraiser in one day in U.S. history. However, his own record was broken on December 16, 2007, on the anniversary of the Boston Tea Party, where supporters reenacted the Boston Tea Party but labeled the tea crates with slogans and things they wished to be done away with in the government. The Tea Party fundraiser took in over $6 million in one day, making it not only the largest online one-day fundraiser, but the largest online or offline fundraiser in one day in U.S. history. To top it all off, supporters raised another $1 million in one day for Ron and Carol Paul's marriage anniversary. This anniversary gift was the fourth largest single-day campaign donation to date. Ron Paul supporters even had their own blimp, 20 feet longer than the Goodyear blimp, which said, "Who is Ron Paul? Google Ron Paul" on the side. Sadly, the media did not cover these events with any intensity at all.
Another question about electability. Do you have any, sir? There's always the question as to whether or not you are in fact viable. Your differences with the Republicans with the rest of the Republicans on this stage has raised questions about whether or not you can actually win the Republican nomination, sir.
This video clip shows the blatant attempts to discredit Ron Paul on national television. What is even more disturbing is seeing the chart for the time and answers each candidate was allowed to have during the debate. Mitt Romney was given 21 minutes and 11 seconds to answer his 12 questions. John McCain was given 16 minutes for his 12 answers. Rudy Giuliani was given 13 minutes and 50 seconds for the 10 questions he answered. Even Mike Huckabee was allowed 12 minutes and 11 seconds for the 8 questions he answered. Finally, Ron Paul was only allowed 6 minutes and 31 seconds for the whole 5 questions he was allowed to answer. If this isn't blatant show of censorship, I don't know what is. In an ABC News poll, well over 7,000 people voted for Ron Paul, with Giuliani and Romney receiving only 100 votes each for who won the debate. In a C-SPAN poll, 69% voted for Ron Paul, with his nearest contender gathering only 9% of the vote. Now this is also with Ron Paul only getting 5 questions out of the entire time.
Say yes to Dr. No! Say yes to Dr. No! Say yes to Dr. No! Ron Paul! 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 Ron Paul!
In the video, it can clearly be seen that the much more vocal Ron Paul supporters outnumber the Mitt Romney supporters. However, when the pictures are shown on ABC's website later that night, the media set the stage for the public to see that Ron Paul supporters are alone and in small in number.
Yeah, it does, but I got to run a truck. He's going to have to cut it. It's easier if he knows where his video is. It's a problem. So,
I don't want to run false, but I need shots of the audience and people eating and crap like that. You know, voiceover.
This is a gross display of a media gatekeeper showing the public what they think they need to know. So to check for media bias, we can actually use a nifty tool in Google. So go to Google and click the More section. After dropping down the More box, you'll click Even More, which is circled on the screen. After clicking Even More, you'll find a tab that says Labs, which is circled on the right hand side of the screen with an arrow pointing to it. After clicking Labs, you'll see the nifty little tool called Google Trends on the left hand side, which is circled and has an arrow pointing to it. Now here's where things get really interesting. Type Ron Paul into the search bar, and on the top you will see total searches for Google users, and on the bottom will be news reference stories from news organizations about Ron Paul. These graphs so far seem to have a pretty good correlation with one another. Now things become a little more interesting when you add another candidate to the equation. As you can see, I've added Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney on the top doesn't have near as many search results by Google users as Ron Paul does. However, his news reference volume has far surpassed Ron Paul's. This becomes even more prevalent when you add another candidate to the equation. If you look, you can see that Mike Huckabee is even lower than Mitt Romney, yet his news reference volume is much higher than Ron Paul's. When you add Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, two historic candidates in this election, you can see that Ron Paul actually keeps up for a while in the Google searches by users. However, he's pretty much flatlined when compared to Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton on news reference volume. The video here is the Campaign for Liberty March in Washington, D.C. that took place during the summer of 2008. Apparently the numbers were seemingly not significant enough for the corporate-controlled media to pay attention to the event. A lone blog entry from the Chicago Tribune is about the sum of the written coverage from the Freedom Rally. Meanwhile, there was clearly a gross distortion of the truth. CNN ran a short report which stated Ron Paul addressed 500 to 800 people. Now watch this video and tell me if this is 500 to 800 people. Attendees of the rally estimated that on the low end there was over 6,000 people that attended, and on the high end 20,000 people. Now, with this many people attending a rally in Washington that closed down the streets of Washington, you would think that it would be pretty newsworthy. However, you can see that this is not the case at all. Many people ask why. Why is Ron Paul being censored from the media? And frankly, I don't have the answer for that. All I can make is speculations. His lack of special interest support might be a reason, or even his wanting to abolish the FCC, which would make it a lot easier for independent news organizations to hit the airwaves and compete against the big media giants. There could be also other reasons, but the matter of fact is, there was censorship, and Americans should be a little curious why. I have a feeling if they heard what he had to say, they might like what they're hearing. Some very powerful people might be afraid.